Hi, welcome back to The Political Beat, the newsroom's longest-running internet television program. I'm Pat, this is Chip, and we cover all things political here in the city of London, Ontario, and it's the end of the year, so we figured we would do sort of, I guess, a poor man's version of a year in review, right?
A wrap.
Yeah, a wrap-up, like a little wrap-up, year-end wrap-up, where we pick the three most significant stories of the year, as we recall them anyway, at 300 Dufferin, and I think we sort of agreed on what they would be, right?
I have no idea what you're talking about.
So, well, let's just get right into it then. Let's get it started so we can get it finished, as I like to say.
Yes, we've collaborated as always.
We're going to go in reverse order from what we would consider to be the third most significant to the most significant. You can probably guess what it'll be if you've been paying attention, and if you haven't been, this will be a valuable little resource for you. So, the number three is going to be the Ombudsman's, and this is my word, scathing report on the February luncheon at Billy T's, the popular Highbury Avenue eatery, where he deemed that the Fontana 8, ATE, that's the mayor and 6 of his colleagues who claimed that they gathered there in a back room by accident in February one Saturday afternoon. He, the Ombudsman, found that they misled him with some of their evidence and some of their testimony during his investigation, and it was indeed a quote-unquote illegal secret meeting that breached the Municipal Act laws against, I don't know, behind closed doors goings-on.
Closed-door meetings.
Closed-door meetings. And, I don't know, he has no power to really sanction anybody. The storm has passed, a couple of nasty headlines, but pretty bad bit of business. Would you agree?
Yeah, and they don't like him. Members of council, a number of them don't like Andre Morin, the ombudsman, and it's pretty clear. And it's pretty clear that he doesn't like them much either. So. And
a coincidence that it would be the same politicians that were at the luncheon who would be the ones that don't like him. But
mere coincidence.
They were the mayor, Sandy White, Joe Swan, Dale Henderson, Bud Polhill, Paul Van Meerbergen, and I'm going to get it, Stephen Orser. Those are the 7. Yeah, absolutely. That's what it was. That was the 7.
Okay.
So they got, I guess I would call it a black eye or a bit of a knuckle rapping, but nothing really beyond that. And will people remember it on October 27th when they vote?
I don't know. I think compiled on everything else that people have to gripe about this council, I think it may play a role, but not a huge role.
And I will say this, that I had one councillor who has had very little in the way of controversy or complaints about their behavior email me last weekend and say, you know, you write about worst council ever and you really don't make any distinction between who the lightning rods are and who they are not. And I thought, that's an interesting point. So it's not as if it's everybody, right?
Years ago, we used to give lumps of coal and candy canes to specific members of council.
Well, like at Christmas, you'd write a little...
Yeah, we'd have the lumps of coal because a particular member of council did this during the year, and a candy cane because somebody did something particularly good. It's probably an argument to be reinstating that, but whenever you do that, then people shoot the messenger and say, well, you know, they're just grinding an axe or whatever. But I think we should hold them to account, and you know, if we could find some coal somewhere.
Yeah, there's plenty of worthy recipients.
Yeah, plenty of worthy recipients.
So our second most significant story was not really a story. It was more of like seemed like a bit of a subtle change at first. This was Denise Brown's shifting alliances or shifting allegiances. She was part of the original Fontana 8. That's the number 8, which was the slim majority on the 15-member city council that pushed through the mayor's agenda for the first 2 years and a bit. And as you'll no doubt recall, things came to a head last November or December when there was a vote, sort of a palace coup, saying to the mayor, hey, you should step down. Denise supported him. But then shortly thereafter, she started distancing herself from him, and during the budget season, as you'll recall, the mayor's 4 straight tax freeze promise was thrown out the window. Denise's distancing herself from him was part of that.
I think it was pivotal. It was a tipping point, if you will. She had allied herself with the mayor, and she told me at one point that basically she was new on council, didn't know which way to sort of turn, and the first decision she made was to throw in with the mayor. And then subsequent, she had a bit of an about face and started thinking more for herself and not necessarily voting lockstep with the Fontana 8. I think that was a very interesting sea change at council. I think that's one of the more significant things this year.
Right, and we'll still see 8-7 votes. It's 8-7 against the mayor's propositions. For example, selling up to 49% of hydro, was turfed, and it was sort of, I guess you could say Denise was the deciding vote. She voted with the 8 people who rejected it. Very interesting. And I'd also say, too, that in her ward, which would include Wortley Village and Old South, she would have politically been an odd fit, I think, for that ward seeking re-election, which I don't doubt she will. So maybe pretty smart move to sort of reinvent yourself or redefine yourself. If you're seeking a second term.
Yeah, and also ward. She said, you know, on the personal front, she was with About Town Transportation. She's got a new position.
Yeah,
now,
she left there.
She's had a lot on her plate, and you know, she's learning her way as she goes. And I think her decision to not be lockstep with the mayor and his supporters, as I say, I think that's perhaps the pivotal thing in the year.
Yeah, that was interesting. And the last one, again, really has nothing to do with City Hall. It's Joe Fontana's apolitical problems, which have been so very detailed by you. There was the well, let's start with the charity, which was
Trinity Global Support Foundation. That had its charitable status yanked early in the year. I think it was in March, something like that. $152 million of charitable tax receipts had been issued. This Canada Revenue Agency decided it had lost its way, its charitable way, and was more a tax shelter for people. Yanked the status of that. There was the issue of the fellow that sued him for the Romanian adventure.
Tony Baxa?
Tony Baxa, yeah, that was unsuccessful. However, we now, recently, we now have the date set for his criminal charges on those issues with respect to the Public Works check that was used to pay for his son's wedding reception at the Marconi Club in 2005. That's coming up on May the 26th. I understand that will be an out-of-town judge, a 3 or 4 day trial. We'll see where that goes. So there's been a lot of outside of City Hall activity the mayor's been involved in, which has been obviously a distraction.
And I can't help but think that taking it to relate it to City Hall, depending on the outcome of that trial in May, that will play a role, I think, in the decision making of some people whether or not they see
whether they're going to run for
whether
mayor.
or not they're going to run for mayor.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be really fascinating to see how it plays out.
Well, if someone waits till then, they're going to have to come in. You know, they're going to have their ducks in a row before then, and they're going to have to launch with a big bang if they're going to challenge him. Because basically, June, July, August, September, almost. You know, good chunk of October. I think the election's the 27th.
Right.
5 months to mount a campaign, raise money, and all that sort of stuff. That's a tall order for anyone.
Right. I'll just point out that Joe himself, when he ran in 2010, didn't announce until mid-May, and he won. So it was pretty remarkable. So it has been done. It has been done. Can be done. So I don't know. Beyond the criminal trial, I think we're going to have a lot of good behavior in 2014 because it's an election year. But there's also going to be a lot of interesting stuff where we see who comes out of the woodwork to run for council, who comes out of the woodwork to potentially run for mayor.
I will be watching very carefully to see decisions based on who tries to favor certain people that perhaps contribute to campaigns. I think that's worthy of watching. We've seen a little bit of that already with respect to the urban growth boundary, gallery full of developers and property owners. They are traditionally, the construction and building trades and development industry are traditionally the main supporters of candidates at election time. So we have to be vigilant and watch to see if this has any impact on decisions in the next few months.
And I think there's a hard core of City Hall watchers who are always paying attention, but the interest generally ramps up in an election year. So that'll be fun for us because there'll be a little more engagement and a little more, I guess, impetus from the public on getting information and details about what's happening in City Hall.
And we can't forget, we forgot it last time, the election hotline number.
Oh yes, of course.
Right down there.
So that's if you're thinking of running.
Yes, right.
Call us anytime at that number, and we'll be happy to take your message.
And it may well be that we don't have another one of these until the nomination period begins on January the 2nd.
That's right. No, we probably won't.
At which point people can file their paperwork and file early and file often. And don't forget the election hotline number, please.
Not a bad year. That was like 10 minutes. We did the whole year in 10 minutes. That's pretty good.
I hope we get away with it.
Yeah, okay. On behalf of Chip, I'm Pat. Thanks for watching, and we will see you next time right here at lfpress.com.